Alright, you should have been making this pesto all summer long, but if you haven't, here's the recipe for some do-it-yourself organic pesto. And it's so easy. It's going to yield 1 cup of pesto. It takes about 5 minutes to prepare. The ingredients are very simple. You're going to need 2 cups of packed fresh basil leaves, 2 cloves of garlic, 1/4 cup of pine nuts, 2/3 cup of extra virgin organic olive oil. It'll be divided. You could throw a little kosher salt to taste, but I wouldn't recommend it, and some freshly ground black pepper, and then 1/2 cup of freshly grated pecorino cheese or Parmesan cheese. That's it. So here's the other thing is, during the season, I should have been picking these little flowers off, but I got so many plants that I missed them. So what you want to do is start harvesting your leaves. You're going to need 2 cups packed, so you better start picking. And actually what happens was when you pinch this back, it just restarts growing over here. So it's always good to make fresh batches of pesto, and then it'll encourage branching on the plant itself. The pesto you can make fresh, and also you could freeze it. Here you go, there's my 2 cups packed basil. Alright, here is the easiest way to make your do-it-yourself organic pesto. And it's so easy, it takes about 5 minutes to make. This is going to make about 1 cup, and these are the ingredients that I'll go over with you. First of all, you're going to want your basil. Grow your own. It's the only way it's going to be the freshest it could be. Pick back the flowers. It encourages more branching. Buy organic seed. Let's put Monsanto and the people that are into the GMOs out of business. That being said, let's move on to the 2 cloves of garlic you're going to want. Buy some organic garlic. We're going to use the 2 cloves. And then we're going to use 1/4 cup of pine nuts. Let's talk about the pine nuts. And this is very interesting what I found when I went to the store. I've got Italian pine nuts, and these pine nuts are from China. Use the ones that are from Italy, because I'll tell you real quick here. The ones in China, they've got what they're calling pine nut mouth. You get a nasty metallic aftertaste after eating the seeds, the pine nuts. And it started in 2000, and sometimes it will leave an aftertaste of metal in your mouth for like up to 9 weeks. So, and they couldn't figure out what it was, because when they did the testing on it, they found out that they were adding 2 other species of pines in here. So they didn't know which species it was coming from, but they called it pine nut disease. So who knows what is going on with the nuts from China, but I would definitely stay away from them. And you could tell because it will say product of China right on the package. So go with the Italian pine nuts. So that's what I went with. Alright, here's the pine nut that is supposedly a product of China. Looks like it's 10 millimeters. By about 5 millimeters. Okay, so this is the problem that I have, is the company, Hickory Harvest Foods, they're listing the raw pine nuts, but they're saying that it's a product of China. So I ended up sending them an email to ask them if they knew about, familiar with the pine mouth syndrome, and believe it or not, I got a reply that they said that they're very familiar with it, and that's why they only buy from the only factory in China that pasteurizes the product. It says this will not guarantee pine mouth syndrome, however we have had very few complaints, and that is way above industry problems, as they are somewhat rampant. Pine mouth has never been tracked to any specific size, shape, species, or color. And then what they said is the pine nut, the species of pine nut is probably a snow pine. However, they do not spec pine nuts by species, but by size and grade. It says most of the ones that they buy are from Siberia, hulled in China, and that most come from Siberia or snow pines. But that's the problem. As a consumer, when I read this, I think it's a product of China, even though they're stating it is a product of Siberia. So I don't know where this stuff is from. So the next ingredient will be the olive oil. Go organic, glass bottles, roll over plastic. And then we're going to use some pepper, some ground pepper, fresh ground pepper, but if you had it in the peppercorns, that would even be better. And then you're going to use the grated cheeses. So they recommend this one, Pecorino, but other people recommended the Parmesan. So my advice would be try a batch of each, and then even try a batch with it split. You're going to use a half a cup of the cheese. And then back to the pine nuts, I read that some people will like to roast them before they use them. So that's a little tidbit. And then the last tidbit for the basil is when you pick them, you could just put them in a glass container and they will last for actually a couple weeks in your kitchen and they won't wilt on you. All you have to do is once in a while recut the bottom with a sharp razor blade so it's not jagged, so it can get some water in there, and you will have fresh basil, and actually in a couple weeks you'll see it root, and then you could just pot it up and you got more. So what I did is I actually washed the basil. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it's actually good. You might wash off some of those oils, but I'm playing it safe, of course, because we all have a fallout coming down from Fukushima, so you want to definitely wash some of that off, and also other pollutants, or maybe the insects. They might have eaten some of Monsanto's GMO corn, and then they're shitting their GMO crap on your leaves, so you definitely want to wash that crap off. And so there's the 2 cups washed. So basically what you're going to do is you combine the basil and the garlic and the pine nuts in the processor here. And what I recommend is buy a processor that's just totally dedicated to pesto, and you'll like it because you won't contaminate your other flavors or whatever, because the garlic has got that heavy flavor. Buy one just dedicated for pesto and you won't go wrong. But you put that basil, garlic, and the pine nuts in the processor and you chop it till it gets coarse. Alright, so what we're going to do is put the basil with the garlic, and be very careful because I cut my finger on the blade earlier trying to find it and set up for this. So there goes one clove, two cloves, and this package is just coming in 2-ounce sizes, so you can, I don't know, I'm going to put it in to see what it measures in the cup, but you could probably just get away with just using that. Well, let me measure this. because it's calling actually for a 1/4 cup of pine nuts. And right there, I got it, 1/4 cup, so that's cool. Put that in there. And there you go. There's a little advice. Put some of the pine nuts in that garlic down at the bottom so it could collect. See how I had that, all the leaves on top? Nothing was getting sucked down. Alright, now that that's processed, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of oil. So you open the lid. Half cup. And the pepper, I'm just going to add a couple touches. 1, 2, 3. Always add more later. Get that stuff off the wall there. Boy, I could smell it already. That's such a great color. Alright, that's basically it right there. So if you're using it immediately, add the remaining oil and then pulse it smoothly. Transfer the pesto to a large serving bowl and then mix in the cheese. Then you're good to go. But if you're going to use it later, if you're freezing it, transfer it to an airtight container and then drizzle the remaining olive oil on top of it. And then you could freeze it up to 3 months. And then when you want to use it, you thaw it, and then you stir in the cheese. And so make a bunch of batches, freeze it. You're going to be loving it in the middle of the winter time. That's if it's snowing by you. So enjoy your pesto. And now we're going to mix up a batch of noodles, and we're going to add the cheese and set up the dish and taste it. Alright, there you go. It's basically done. Now you could season it with salt and pepper to taste. I don't know about too much salt, but it would probably add more to it. Let's take a little taste here. Boy, is that fresh. And you could definitely taste the garlic, but it's not overpowering. That's what's nice about it. So you could put it on your bread, your noodles. You could add this to a ton of stuff. If you can't get the pine nuts because they're very expensive, use walnuts. those will do too. So let's make some noodles and let's get that dish going. I'm curious, I want to see what this tastes like. Alright, now it's done that, we're going to transfer the pesto to a large serving bowl and mix in the cheese. Alright, we're going to use this immediately, so what you want to do is you want to add the 1/3 of a cup of oil. So let's put the 1/3 in. There's the 1/3. Add that in there. And then you pulse it until it gets smooth. Now if you got your noodles ready cooking a couple minutes before it only takes 5 minutes to make. Put this on fresh and it's just going to be amazing flavors that you're going to love, and it's good for you. Enjoy. This is what I chose to use the pesto with. The Farfalla organic durum wheat. USDA organic. You can use whatever you want. Tons of stuff. Just do it. Alright, we're back. The noodles have been cooked. And so now what you do now is add the pesto to the noodles. Now remember, this is very, very sharp. Don't do what I did and cut yourself. It's my only mistake today, was cutting myself on that thing. So you want to mix in the pesto with your noodles. Alright, now that that's mixed in there, you want to put your cheese in there, and I'm going to go with the pecorino. You do a 1/2 cup of that, and you could either do the grated. This would help you big time. You just put that chunk in there and it just does it so easy for you. Let's see what that is, and that's about a 1/2 cup right there. So just put that up on top there. Mix that all in together and you're good to go. You wouldn't believe how good this smells right now. It's really fresh. And you can put it on your plate there. It's as fresh as it's gonna get. Optimum nutritional values from the basil, because it was only picked less than an hour ago, and you want to eat all vegetables and fruits within that hour after it's picked, or it loses its life force. And there you go. The ultimate do-it-yourself organic pesto dish. I'll try to taste it. My God, this is so fresh. Next time you go to the store, look at the pesto jar and see what you're eating. Only ingredient coming out of this jar, straight 100% basil. So just remember that. Freeze it. And look at, there's a little pine nut that got, you could maybe sprinkle a couple up on top there. Try it, you'll love it. Only thing is, if you're going on a date, make sure your date eats it as well. You know what I'm talking about. Enjoy. Thank you.